Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the much anticipated start of the LMU Championship Season 3 right here at RaceFace.Pro. My name is Stephen Kernick and welcome to the beautiful brand new circuit of Silverstone. 18 corners of pure out-and-out action for our drivers, and this season we got a little bit of a twist kicked in as well. We are going and chucking in a multi-class, not just our hypercars, but we also got the brand new LMP3s out on circuit. It's going to be an absolute great one. We're really looking forward to some great racing. Combo that with our GT3s that are out on track. Qualifying is underway as drivers look to fight their way for the positions. We got Jaco Kutzer, Henry Mayer, Chris Stalls, the defending champion in the hypercars, out in his Peugeot. He's comboed out with the likes of Mildred Claessens, who's looking to improve, fight his way through, and become part of the show from the Pandassi team. Brandon Kruger rejoins the field, this time away from the Ferrari. He's gone to the Peugeot. He's got Fleming Bauer to enjoy out in the Aston Martin. Chris Collison comes in to have some fun in the hypercar class, and Gerrit Bucas as well. Moving further on, we have got Carl Oosthuizen in our LMP3s. The defending champion from the GT3s switched over to the LMP3, and the RTA driver is looking to really find his way out there. He's joined by Jean Verveers, Dion Kopp, and Francois Buerta, who are running in those LMP3 cars. Those Ligier JSP 320s, absolutely amazing vehicles. Uses a 4-litre V8 that's in it, and these are the old spec. They're not the new spec coming out in 2026 where they run turbocharged V6s. These are true out-and-out V8s, which is always fantastic to see out on the circuit, looking to have some fun. Other drivers joining in, Joppy Simons comes in for the RTA team, away from iRacing into the LMP3. He's going to be fighting it out against Lawrence Bonlos. Donovan Lear coming in from Logistical Nightmare Racing console division. He's now jumping into the world of PC and having some fun in LMU. Dennis Gillett and Robin Visser, and a whole slew of drivers like Esteban Pretorius from RTA out in the GT3. So, times are coming on the board. Chris Stalls leads out with a 142.052. Henry Mayer holds on to second place, with Mildred Claessens holding on to third for our hypercars. Now, the trick comes in for our LMP3s, where they are reasonably quicker than your GT3s, but only when those tires get up to temperature. Due to the WEC series, there is no tire warmers on these cars, and that's all about keeping them going. Carl Oosthuizen, Jean Verveers, and Dion Kopp lock out that top three as it stands. And then for our GT3s, Beggar Krobler switching out from the Mercedes to the Lexus GT3. Going to be having some fun out there and see what he can do. Esteban Pretorius in second place. And Stanton Augustus, a new name to the grid, out in third, along with Vertier Buerta, David Van Veek. But to tell the story, Joppy Simons and Lawrence Bonlos at the moment back of the LMP3 field, and they are sitting square in the middle of our GT3s, splitting between Arno Kraus and William Wentworth at the moment. Jaco Kutzer in the hypercars, yet to put a time on the board, along with Brandon Kruger. He's trying to get himself going. Martin Jacobs out there in the Cadillac, looking to put the hammer down. Interesting to see this car coming out. First time in all 3 seasons, we're getting to see the Cadillac coming out and looking to put up a fight. It's going to be an interesting one. From iRacing was a dominating car. Does get a little bit loose on the rear. Well, let's see if the big old V8 can really fight against the reigning champion, the Peugeot, 2-time champion, Chris Stalls. As they continue on for 8 minutes and 40, it's going to be a tough time out there for drivers to get their quick laps in. And so far, the 142 is fastest by our hypercars, a 153.7 by our LMP3s, and a 2-minute dead set by Esteban Pretorius in the GT3 field. So just how quick the drivers are moving to try and ensure they lock in and get going. And to those joining us out in the virtual grandstand, absolutely wonderful to have you guys here. It's phenomenal to see you all joining in and being part of the fun. We got the Stingers Racing going and saying, let's go Stingers. and set it for the boys. They're going and joining in from the side. It's always good to have the stingers out there. Mordred Claessen's in a car that, well, has slowly grown on me. The BMW that's got the big nostrils on it. The Evo edition that's coming out in 2026 is going to have the smaller grille. I think that's going to look far better than this one. But keep an eye on it. Mordred Claessen's got a dominating run in hypercars. And unfortunately, due to getting lobbed into the wall, he wasn't able to finish. But he did come third in the GT3s. So keep an eye on this driver. He's hoping to beat out a long-term rival, Brandon Kruger. Now, Brandon switching out from the Ferrari to the Peugeot to counteract Crystals at the moment. And they're going to have to fight out against Henry Mayer in the Aston Martin Valkyrie. A champion in ACC, multiple champion in ACC, coming over to Hypercars. Something a little bit different and hoping that's going to work out in his favor. John Fierce gets into first place for our LMP3s, while Kyle Oosthuizen holds on to second place. Dion Kopp hopes to hold on to third. Etienne Pretorius and Stanton Augustus going round out first and second of our GT3 field, with Bego Grobler going and trying to put a time on the board. A couple of drivers not getting a time on the board. Mike McGeer, JD Tildenace, Rob van der Heever, Willie Lagrange, Jan Kleinans, and Ruben Visser are not out on circuit. They haven't got a time out on the board. Donovan Lair going and struggling a bit. Fastest lap time was a 206.8, which is at the back end of the GT3 field, trying to get to grips with a high aero car. They do have the same straight line as a GT3. They've got a little bit more aero to stick them to the ground, and they are a serious amount of fun. Power to weight ratio is incredible with these LMP3s. Unfortunately, you need to really believe that the grip is with you, especially in these cars. So, with a big field of 9 hypercars and looking at 9 LMP3s, now 10 LMP3s and 10 hypercars, so if you count Jan Kleinans and Ruben Visser, they haven't got out yet, and 18 GT3s look to fight their way through as time starts to tick over. No one able to dethrone Crystals at the moment. Henry Mayer trying everything, tooth and nail at this point, hoping that he can just try and wind up that little bit more to get a bit closer as our hypercar makes its way around the circuit. And that Aston Martin Valkyrie going and moving off to one side, not able to improve on his delta. Brandon Kruger looking to try and fight his way through, really doing everything he can to just get every little bit of power out of the 9X8 Peugeot as it stands to get to that 142.052. He did a 142.5, just needs to knock off 0.5 of a second. Here at Silverstone, Maggots, Beckett's are brutal, especially when you go and put a wheel wrong. You land up going off circuit, that bottles up your time. You can see our drivers are really having to throw the cars around. Trust in the grip, especially heading into turn 1, the long right-hander. You keep your foot firmly planted and just aim for the corner, down from 6th to 5th. Bring yourself through the corners, up into 6th yet again, and Brandon Kruger on a stellar run. So makes his way around into the left-hander, long waving left that you just got to try and get yourself going. Cut the corner as much as possible and floor it down the straight. Lost out that faster sector 1. Best lap time set by Crystals, a 141.9. Can Kruger go and beat out Henry Mayer as it stands, as he lobs his way through, struggling to get the Peugeot, just to find that little bit more grip, sliding around underneath him as he stands on the gas, hoping to just get a little bit more push out of the car, and does get a 142.096. That moves him up to second place. Couldn't get that 141, but does dethrone Henry Mayer. Fleming Bauer is going to look to try and fight it out as well, and he is really throwing that Valkyrie around, while Mordred Claessen's out there in the only BMW is still trying to really dial in the wick and see what he can do. Herb Bukes out there in the Toyota, along with Martin Jacobs, who sits in the only Cadillac in the field. So we've got a BMW and we've got a Cadillac, really, to wind it up, to give it everything they got. And everyone talks about the soundtrack of this car, while Martin Jacobs sits in 7th place and he's got a 1:43.8 as his best lap time. Can he improve to get into that top 5 and see if he can stay fighting? Jaco Kutzer out there in the Ferrari 499P, and Chris Collison in the Toyota, still trying to find to grips with the cars. Carl Oosthuizen up into first for the LMP3s. He's going to be heading out for one more lap. Jean Verveers down into second. Dion Cup switching from GT3s last season in the Ferrari to the LMP3s, hoping to make it work out in his favor. Holds on to third place, but he's got the likes of Dennis Gillett out there, the old McLaren driver, now looking to fight his way through in a new class of car. Anton Lummers holds on to that 5th place. But Etienne Pretorius, Guillermoton, and Stanton Augustus hold on to the top 3. Vietia Burta is fighting out in the Aston Martin in 4th place. David Van Veek for RTA holds on to 5th place in the GT3. Andre Macheka back again in the BMW. He's going to be looking to fight out against the likes of Bagar Krobler. Grant Leclerc, a little bit further down, 8th place. Jody Cinnamon is also in a Porsche yet again. 9th position, Conrad Martin, Arno Kraus, William Wentworth. And then we've got some new drivers, likes of Marcus Frenson. New to the field, good to have him out here. Looking to fight out against fellow South Africans. Jan Blacknote will come across the line. He's in 14th. He's trying to get some heat into those tyres. Mike McGear, JD Hildenace, Rob van der Heever, Willie Lecrange, Jan Kleinans, and Ruben Visser still haven't put a time out on the board to make it work for them. But as it stands, Crystals with 1:41.9, looking to go even quicker this time around as he guns it in the Peugeot. Up in Sector 1, up in Sector 2. And let's see what he can do for the final sector. Really trying to sling the car around. Give it everything she's got. A little bit of tank slapper on the way through as his cross arms trying to figure out that little bit more grip. Seeing where it's going to work out for him as he stands on the gas, looking to charging to the line. Is it going to be better? Yes, it is. A 1:41.747. And once again, showing a dominating affair. This time, though, not a second gap as the rest of the field are beginning to grips with hypercars. He's currently only 0.3 of a second ahead of this man here, Brandon Kruger. He looks to fight it out a little bit more. Brandon Kruger going through a bit of a team change at the moment. No longer the Omnius Gaming team. They gone and unfortunately had their racing team come apart, but Brandon Kruger been having a bit of fun out there with the rest of his friends and looking to fight it out in the LMU Championships and looking to really show what they can do. But at the moment, a 1:41.7 to beat by Crystals. Oosthuizen with a 1:52.6 and Pretorius with a 2-minute 0.8. So far, we're in for a very, very tight race. Guillermoton sits into 2nd place in his BMW. He's hoping to make it work as most of our GT3s have pulled into the pits and they will be waiting as the checkered flag comes out for the start of the race to start in a little bit of time. Esteban Pretorius once again quickest through that final sector, 2-minute 0.822, improving on his last lap. Great to see drivers figuring out what is going to be the game plan here. Chris Collison coming in from ACC GT3 and also in the GT3 field, now into the hypercars, looking to make it a great run for them. Now, multi-class LMP3, GT3, very close in spec. They're going to be about 7 seconds quicker than for the LMP3s, quicker than the GT3s. However, a 90-litre fuel tank means they've got a little bit of a rougher time to get themselves sorted out, and they will have to navigate through the traffic with a little bit more work. Personally, I'm a big fan of the JSP, the JS320, as it is incredible, incredible little car. And if you are transitioning from GT3 racing over into hypercars, as Jean Verveer shows exactly how not to do it, Lawrence Bonhurst also nearly getting it wrong through the same corner. But these cars are a perfect transition into hypercars. They're not insanely quick. They're not insanely grippy. You have to really go and use your head about it. But it also teaches you a lot of fundamentals that you can put forward into the LMP2 class field. Now, here in LMU, we've actually got 2 types of LMP2s. We've got a restricted and a non-restricted, but they are not joining us this season. We will be having that bit of a intro period with our LMP3s to come in and have a bit of fun. So it's always good to see the drivers out there. As everyone has gone and completed, we will wait for the checkered flag to come out for our racing a little bit later. This is going to be an 80-minute. And as we get information from our tower that we are getting ready for the race start here for round 1 of the LMU Season 3 here at RaceFace.Pro. We're in for an exciting treat, folks, and we will be seeing cars lining up and getting a look at what is our starting order going to look like. So, it is Chris Stills and Brandon Kruger out in the Peugeots, locking out the first row. For the Hypercars, Henry Mayer, Fleming Bauer will chase each other down. The two teammates from Panacity will be also keeping up to battle with the likes of Mordred Clausen, Kurt Bucas, Martin Jacobs, Jaco Kutzer, Chris Collison, and Jan Kleinans will round out our top 10. And with a Cadillac and a BMW in the mix, they are the unknown cars that we haven't seen during the course of last season. Carl Oosthuizen, John Fears, Dion Cup, Dennis Gillett, Anton Lummers, Francois Buerta, Lawrence Bonlos, Yuppie Simons, Donovan Lair, and Ruben Visser round out our LMP3 field, as with that is our top 20 cars thus far. Now moving on to our GT3s, it's Etienne Pretorius, Graham Maton, Santon Augustus, Jan Blutnote, David van Veek, Andre Macheka, along with Dievertia Buerta. Bego, Krobler, Grant Leclerc, Jody Cinnamon, Conrad Martin, Honor Cross, William Wentworth, Mark Friesen, Rob van der Hever, JD Gildenace, Billy the Crunch, and Mike McGear round out our GT3 field as we get ready to go. Drivers starting to make their way through. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, as we get ready to kick off round 1 of Season 3 of our LMU and one of our biggest fields of 38 cars, 3 different classes. It is going to be the defending champion against one driver that kept him insanely busy in Season 2. Brandon Kruger in the Hypercars. Our LMP3s, Carl Oosthuizen, defending champion from the likes of Season 2 in the GT3 class, will look to battle it out in a brand new class with Jean Fifiers on the front row. Esteban Pretorius and Quim Maton look to battle their way around the circuit. As we take a look, drivers heading around Silverstone. They've driven it on other sims, but it is the first time we're visiting here on LMU. Who's going to have the jump off the line? It's a Peugeot and Aston front row lockout looking to launch their way through. Who's got enough? 80 minutes worth of racing, and we're in for an absolute treat. As lights go on, lights off, and away we go racing. Our Hypercars launch off, our LMP3s launch off, and we are giving it everything we got. And take a look, Crystals going, getting the run, but Mordred Clausen's getting moved out of the way by Henry Mayer as he couldn't quite get that jump off line. Brandon Kruger down into 3rd place, getting hunted down by Martin Jacobs in the Cadillac as he gets pressure from Mordred Clausen. Fleming Bauer lurking a little bit behind. Jaco Kutzer, Kurt Bucas is down in 8th place along with Chris Collison, who is rounding out the field. But take a look at our LMP3s as Carl Oosthuizen trying to break the snake at the moment and warming up those tyres. Dion Cup and Jean Fifiers look to go and close up the distance, and it is going to be Dion Cup to try for the inside line through the LMP3 field. Not going to work out there. A little bit further back, Dennis Gillett and Francois Buerta having a bit of a tough time. And for our GT3s, it's Stanton Augustus who is feeling the pressure as Blucknote getting moved a little bit there, trying everything he can to get it on and get going. Young Blucknote racing for a brand new team, was previously on this gaming, now in RTA colours, looks to try and fight it out with Stanton Augustus, who went side by side with him. They were door to door, but now who's got the run? A little bit further back, Wimbledon and Dievertia Buerta continue on the charge. Donovan Lair, after a bit of a rough start, getting overtaken by our GT3 field. He is hunting his way through, and Yuppie Simons as well as Jody Cinnamon all come flying by, and that is a 111 that is parked out on circuit. What on earth? Yuppie Simons landed up, turned round and waiting for the field. And that is one LMP3 that is not going to be too happy. As we go back up to the top, Henry Mayer, Brandon Kruger looking to cross swords again. Martin Jacobs leads out the newer cars out there from our Cadillac and BMW with Mordred Clausen trying to close down the distance. Not having an easy time. He lost the rear. Mordred Clausen loses the rear under acceleration. And that, unfortunately, is going to throw him down the order. And here comes our LMP3s that are really going to make life a little bit more difficult for him. So really turning into a difficult race. Nonetheless, Mordred Clausen's at the back of the field for the Hypercars. Looks in the rearview mirror and sees the brutal V8 of our LMP3. A brand new class looking to fight it out. Our GT3s, however, is Esteban Pistorius, who leads out the pack with Blicknote, keeping the pressure on. His teammate now looks to try and keep it all together. Stanton Augustus dealing with the likes of Guillermo and Andre Macheca, who is looking for that inside line. He can't quite get the drive. And here comes Vietia Buerta along with Bego Krobler as they fight their way through. The GT3 field still insanely close, while our LMP and Hypercars start to open up distance. Drivers will have to consider what they will do and how they're going to get it done and dusted. Now, let's talk about strategy, because it's a 1 hour and 20-minute race, and drivers have to be concerned about tires and fuel during this race. They also got virtual energy. Now, virtual energy is utilized to give a bit of a BOP. It goes and allows a certain period of time the cars are remaining stationary in the pits. Now, that does help out for the different classes to ensure there is a bit of a gap. So while you've got your virtual energy to be concerned about, you've also got the likes of your actual fuel coming into play. It's a bit of a move around the two, but a virtual energy is a set amount that you have to try and utilize or not utilize during the course of the race. And that is also on our GT3 cars along with our Hypercars and such. We'll take a look at it, but we've also got the virtual energies in the Hypercars which are utilized for power, and that is to go and deliver power to the front and rear wheels. Bearing in mind the Aston Martin Valkyrie of Henry Mayer is a rear wheel drive car with no hybrid in it. So it's got a little bit of a different system coming into play. The Aston Martin Valkyrie was also developed as a road car first and a hypercar second. The Peugeot Brandon Kruger, however, it was developed as a hypercar and was the second generation of the 9X8 as these two look to fight it out. Last time we saw the likes of the Aston Martin Valkyrie racing here at Silverstone, it actually had its door tear off from real racing. And it's good to see that they managed to fix that in the sim. As our drivers continue on. Crystals, Henry Mayer, Brandon Kruger still fight out for second and third as it stands. Martin Jacobs clean away from Fleming Bar, Jakob Kutzer, Bukas, Chris Collison, Mordred Clausen's. But our LMP3 field, it's Carl Oosthuizen a second away from Dion Copper, and for Fears, who look to continue on their brawl. Esteban Blicknote, Esteban Pistorius, Jan Blicknote, and Stanton Augustus still fight it out for the top three in our GT3 field. Looks like Brandon Kruger starting to come off the gas. The two RTA teammates looking to give each other a little bit of breathing room. Stanton Augustus under braking, getting closer and closer. The Stingers racing, going and showing what they can do. And I have to go and say, the Stingers colors, the red and black on the car, really good looking. Usually, for anyone that wants to know, as we do see what that is that Andre Macheca? No! That is one of the band. That's Quinn Matot that's just gone and lost the car. And he went to all shapes of wrong, clipping the AstroTurf and throwing himself into the dirt. Now Conrad Martin comes on by out there in the Ferrari. Bit of a change up from the usual. He was used to be a lot more in the McLaren, switching over to the Ferrari 296 and seeing how that's going to work out in his favor. So as drivers fight their way through, they're going to see how it's going to work out in their way. But take a look at this, as we do have one of the back end of our RTA team drivers in the Porsche. And not having a good time. That is the likes of David van Veek, who is trying to keep himself going at the moment. Mine's out of the way, allows the drivers to come through. However, He's managed to slow his teammates up just enough for Stanton Augustus to close up the distance in the GT3s. That BMW is now hanging right on the back of them, hoping to make it work out in their favor. We'll look to put a bit of pressure on as Blicknotes and Pretorius did a little bit of a swap round and hoping that they are going to have an easier run. However, they've got Andre Macheka right on the back of him, who looks to really make things a little bit more difficult. So moving into our LMP3 class, Dion Cup and Fafirs, no change up in position as yet as they follow in tow with one another, trying to do everything they can to catch up to Carl Oosthuizen. But our LMP3s will be starting to take a look in their mirrors and see exactly where is everyone on the track, where are the hypercars, because they would be getting really close to the back end of our GT3s, which at the moment is going to be a bit of a tough time. Another two of our LMPs to talk about. Donovan Lair having a rough time. He's off into the dirt. Yuppie Simons going and DNFing. Unfortunately, he's out of the race. Donovan Lair, just gets that rear spun route, not having an easy time in the car, as there goes our hypercars. So Donovan Lair now needing to not only just carve his way through, but will be dealing with the hypercars as well, trying to navigate their way through the GT3s and try and navigate their way through the likes of our hypercars. So, Brandon Kruger, Henry Mayer still continue on the drive. Kruger just hanging on the back of him, trying to close up as much as possible. Now, to talk about the energy remaining in our hypercar class, this is how much they have at their disposal to go and utilize the power. But, once again, virtual energy, if it runs out, you do get penalized for it. So it's not something that you get taken completely out of the race for in the other classes. But for our hypercars, it will count as a DNF. If you hit 0%, that's it. You're done. You're out, and you need to then sit on the grandstand, which is going to be the concern on Henry Mayer and Kruger's mind, because take a look, Brandon Kruger down to 66%, while Henry Mayer still got a lot in the tank with that Aston Martin, and will be trying to push a little bit harder at the moment, see where it comes into play. Andre Macheka closing up onto the back of Estienne Pretorius as they look to fight their way through, and Pretorius losing track of his own teammate. Likes of Blicknote starting to step up the pace as we take a look at fast lap times thus far. Chris Stalls with 1:44.3 as his best lap time. The likes of Dion Kopp gets beaten up by Carl Oosthuizen 1:55.4 for our LMP3 class, and at 2:03.0 set by Johan Blicknote as it stands. The drivers still trying to dig that little bit deep and see where exactly they can come through. Unfortunately, a couple of non-starters, and we've also got Yuppie Simons, our first retirement. Oh, that was very, very close for the likes of Henry Mayer. Took the dive on Conrad Martin. No room there. He went and put his nose through. Little bit of elbow, and that Ferrari landed up in the weeds. Brandon Kruger capitalized on it. Try to close up. Apologies. Henry Mayer, Brandon Kruger continue to fight their way through, and now going to be staring right at the back of the Porsche. Not having an easy time. They close the distance, and Kruger, he's sort of backed out of it. Really try to carry as much corner momentum and got himself a little bit caught up. They have got on to the back of our 15th place, and that's David van Veek out in the Porsche. He opens up the corner, allows the hypercars to come through. But here comes the train that everyone's been dreading, because this will be getting past first, second, third, fourth, and fifth place in a row. And you can see Crystals fights his way through. He wants to try and clear. This is allowing likes of Andre Macheka to get a bit closer to Estienne Pretorius. He looked around the outside, he looked around the inside, couldn't get the pass. Stanton Augustus dealing with the hypercars, hunting him down as Brandon Kruger chases to try and get past, and gets very, very close to the side of Augustus, and was a clear run. But man, oh man, that was a huge fright for the GT3 field, as our hypercars giving it everything they got. And now we will start to see the hypercars getting a bit closer as Crystals put the pressure to try and get past our leader of Jan Bloknoot in the GT3 field. He clears that battle, and now we'll be focusing on what can he do to try and catch up to our LMP3s. The LMP3s are going to be a little bit trickier due to one thing. They've got the same amount of power as these GT3s. However, they do have serious cornering speed thanks to the high aerodynamics and the power to weight ratio coming into play. So it's going to have to be a little bit of a navigate round, as we do see that's Martin Jacobs battling to get on by. And we also did see a little bit in the background, Checa getting a bit out of shape as he's got Stanton Augustus all over the back of him. Hypercars hunt their way through, not having an easy time in the early stages of this race. However, it is still going on, and drivers doing everything they can. Conrad Martin and Guillermoton finding each other out, looking to close the distance. Both drivers going and having a ton of fun out there. From Monday Night Racing, the rivalry continues into the world of LMU, and Conrad Martin looks to try and open up the distance. Rob van Hever is also joined in the fray with that Ferrari 296 as he tries to get a little bit closer to the Griffin Sim Racing team. And don't count them out, as they've really shown some great promise. I know the Griffin Sim Racing team have been working more and more, developing their cars across all the different platforms. Dennis Gillett and Jean Verfiers fighting it out. Dennis Gillett previously raced out in the likes of the McLaren. He's now having a bit of fun with Jean Verfiers, one of the big pushers in the prototype racing scene. He's trying to get a little bit closer, have a bit of fun out there, not turning into an easy duel between them, but they will be trying to figure out what is the game plan here to ensure they keep the movement forward. However, they will have the hypercars of Crystals, Henry Mayer, Brandon Kruger, Martin Jacobs, Fleming Bauer, Mordred Klaassen, all starting to make their way through. Let's talk about this. Mordred Klaassen made a mistake in the hypercar, got himself thrown back, but now managed to climb back 3 positions. He got past likes of Gerrit Bucas, he got past Jaco Kutzer and Chris Collison as well. So by clearing those drivers, he's moved himself up into 6th place. So still lots of time on the board as our LMP3s now starting to face the hypercars for the first time, and the hypercars facing the LMP3s for the first time. Henry Mayer brawls it out against Brandon Kruger. Henry Mayer from Pandacity, Brandon Kruger, a free agent as it stands, now looks to try and fight their way through, not turning into an easy mix, and everyone hoping to push themselves a little bit more, but windscreen wipers starting to come on, and I've got a funny feeling, folks, that we may be starting to see a little bit of drizzle coming down on these cars. Yes, it is. We are starting to see a little bit of a drizzle here on the circuit, and this is going to make life rather tricky, because now, who's going to pit for wet, or who's going to carry it out a little bit longer on their dry tyres as we carry on with this race? Henry Mayer still holds on second. Kruger hunts down every left, right, every corner. He's just trying to put the nose in. Just can't quite get the acceleration to get past this Aston Martin Valkyrie as it stands. The Peugeot looks for the up and under as Henry Mayer tries to close off the line. Brandon Kruger is forced to come off the gas and wait that little bit longer. GT3 field, we got Esteban Torres, and take a look. Andre Macheka carry their way through, but we do have a big change as Bloknoot down into 5th place and has lost a lot of ground on his run. So definitely came off the gas and now lost track of his teammate. The more of a greasier course here at Silverstone gets a little bit tricky. Mixture of high speed and hard braking zones on a greasy circuit makes life a little bit more tricky for guys to really battle their way through, to see how it's all going to keep together. And the RTA team are really just keeping a close eye. I know Yuppie Simons will be going and watching from the sideline. A bit of disappointment early on for him as he was our first retirement of the race. Jean Verfiers is a retirement as well. Jean Verfiers out of the race in the LMP3s. Fighting it out for the top 3. And unfortunately, a retirement coming into play. Something tells me he got quite a bit of damage on the car, and that was pretty much all she wrote for him. That is a huge, huge shake-up for the LMP3 field, which now leaves Carl Oosthuizen, Dion Kapp, Dennis Gillett, Anton Lummers, Lawrence Bornhuis, and Francois Buerta to continue on the charge. Otto Kraus and Bego Krubler out there in the Lexus continue on their drive. One of the older of the cars that still lurk around in GT3 racing for now as it tries to make their way through. And interesting to see Bego Krubler, usually a top 5 contender, starting to feel the pressure and starting to also feel that the car not quite with him at the moment, has to really work it up compared to the Mercedes he had last season. Another close battle that's happening out on circuit, other than our two amazing Lexus that are brawling out between Otto Kraus and Bego Krubler as they make their way through Maggots and Beckett's. It is Henry Mayer and Brandon Kruger still pushing one another, trying to figure out how to catch up to Crystals and where can they get the run. A little bit of a squirm heading into the right-hander for Henry Mayer as he tries to keep that car all in check as it stands, as we get closer and closer to the 20-minute mark of our race. Oh, bit of contact for Henry Mayer up against our GT3. Came in a bit quick there. Gave a good hard knock to one of our Lexus, and that has now allowed Brandon Kruger to get a little bit more pace and just not having a top end. He tries for the switchback. He goes up on the inside. Brandon Kruger got it absolutely for the sin. Mayer stuck on the outside. Comes back onto the circuit, and Brandon Kruger lined it pitch perfect for the pass. Got it done, and now looks to try and break away from Henry Mayer. They first have to try and get past the likes of our LMP3 field. Absolutely incredible drive from our hypercars right now. Henry Mayer, I got a funny feeling that is sporting a little bit of damage on his nose after that rear contact that he had with one of our GT3 Lexus, and that might have been Otto Kraus. Yes, it was, that he went into the back of. That didn't quite work. Sorry, it was William Wentworth he went into the back of, because here comes William Wentworth getting overtaken by the rest of our hypercar field. Behind him, he's got Max Friesen trying to close up the distance, and Donovan Leyer down in 30th position overall needs to try and clear the GT3 field. Battle for first place. Esteban Pistorius, Andre Macheco. Let's go back to Season 2 where these two cross swords looking to fight it out with one another, and they're hoping to relive that same battle yet again here on LMU for Season 3, Round 1 at Silverstone. Lights getting brighter and brighter. Pistorius going a little bit wide there, losing out a lot of drive, and this is going to allow Andre Macheco to close up the distance. Really nailing it behind him. Trying to see where he can look to get on by. Looks outside, looks inside, swaps around. Just no room as Pistorius holds his line and does not want to move offline. He wants to ensure he's on that racing line. He gets it pitch perfect every time as they make their way through. As we get past the 20-minute mark, it's time to start considering those pit stops. 45-minute mark is where majority of the pit stops will be done. Conrad Martin, Rob Funningheva, they are fighting out. Griffith Sim Racing Team and the Treehouse Works Racing of Conrad Martin continues to hold on, and just ahead of them is Graham Maton, who was at BMW a little bit earlier on, lost the rear end of the car, now trying to just keep it all in check, but you can see the paces have slowed down at the moment as everyone trying to figure out what is the game plan. However, I say that Vietia Buerta puts in a 2-minute 2.4 quickest time out on circuit for our GT3s. He holds on to 4th place, as he's got Stanton Augustus a little bit up the road from him. He'll be looking to try and close that distance. Heading back up to head of our GT3 field, Andre Macheco, Esteban Pistorius continue to close the distance on one another, and I think what's happening right now is Macheco has actually come off the gas. He's allowing that little bit of a catch-up and just trying to save a little bit of fuel. When you're going for the undercut or the overcut, it can be rather powerful. Remember, virtual energy is to go and keep them BOP'd in the pits, to go and keep them in a stationary time. So, I mean, that is going to make things a little bit more interesting for drivers. And we'll have to see how they utilize that in their run. I mean, this is going to be a proper little challenge. And to bring up a little bit, because we always talk about the virtual energy and how that's going to affect the racing, there's actually a little sensor. When you start and put fuel in the tank, it refuels the virtual energy as well. And it got brought in the rules of 2023 for the likes of the IMSA Sports Car Championship, and also got moved into WEC as well. So drivers are having to utilize something a little bit more different in their strategy versus just keep your foot on the gas, keep it going. This is to also help mandate those pit stops, so you can't just go and run the entire race by lifting and coasting. It does make things a little bit of a issue. But if your energy runs out, hits 0%, you will receive an instant stop and go penalty. That's why it's so crucial to avoid that at all costs. The only ones with our hypercars store the energy in their batteries. Regeneration occurs under braking, while the rest of the field don't have that same luxury. So the hypercars can go a little bit longer than our GT3s and our LMP3s that are out on circuit. Remember, the LMP3s also sit with the smallest fuel tank out of all the cars, 90 litres on these Ligiers versus the likes of 110 to 120 litres of our GT3s and 100 litres of our hypercars. That also dictates how the pit stops are going to come into play. Where can you push that a little bit more? How much are you looking to get going? And where are you looking to stay in for the fight? So closest fight as it stands is between our GT3s as Viertia Buerta and Jan Blicknoit close up the distance to one another. A little bit further back as we've got Crystals trying to make his way around. He's hoping to really get going. It's Fleming Bauer, apologies. But take a look at this. Blicknoit up on the inside of Viertia, who tries to battle it back. Not able to close the distance down. Viertia Buerta coming off racing an endurance race in LMU with the Logistical Nightmare Racing team. Now looks to try and close down the distance to Blicknoit, who dived for that inside line, got the pass done, and now looks to battle it out again. Back up to the sharp end of the field, and it's Andre Macheka who gets it in through turn one, gets the pass done and dusted. And Esteban Pretorius out in the Lamborghini now needs to figure out what is the big game plan here. A little bit too late on the brakes as he tried to go for the sin, not able to get it all hooked in to running into the best of his ability. However, needs to now keep an eye on what's going to happen. The greasy circuit still remains as the headlights get a little bit brighter. Yellow flags coming out as a couple of drivers putting wheel out on the dirt as they fight their way through. So lead for the race, change over, Checker, Pretorius continue on as now the hypercars may be a little bit more of an influence here as we do see one of our Peugeots trying to go a long way around, needing to really step on the gas, and there's where the power advantage comes in, where he's able to clear in a straight line. However, in cornering, all cars are relative at this point of the game. Arno Kraus and Rob van der Heever, as Arno Kraus completely missed the corner. Rob van der Heever is going to say thank you very much from the Griffin Sim Racing team and continue to open up the distance. He does not want to hang around. He wants to clear Arno Kraus as he sits into the top 10. So drivers really trying to dig deep and see what they can do. Stanton Augustus got Johan Blicknoit on the back of him, and we do have the likes of Fleming Bauer trying to switch his way through. Blicknoit trying to capitalize with the hypercar launching through. Stanton Augustus got caught sleeping, couldn't close the door. Johan Blicknoit gets a pass, jumps up into third. Augustus down into fourth place. Mordred Claessen's next up to come through. Is he going to be quick enough to try and clear Stanton Augustus from the likes of a Stingers? He launched up on the inside, gets past done. However, Blicknoit gets the better of the deal and allows a little bit more of a run into the corner. This is going and turning into great stuff. Another one coming in. Lawrence Bondnurst clearing Anton Lummers as our LMP3 field continue on. Anton Lummers going off circuit and just battling to regain control of the car. Slipping and sliding, not able to have the easiest of drive, and looking possibly to go into pit lane he is. And that is going to be Anton Lummers into pit lane to serve his pit stop. Viertia Buerta getting past Stanton Augustus, who had a bit of a problem there. And Stanton actually very, very slow. Misses out his corner and does have David van Veek, who's a back marker, diving and getting past him. So Augustus from the Singers Racing having a little bit of problems on the car and now needs to try and figure out what can he do in terms of strategy. 53 minutes remain of this race, hour and 20 minutes of great racing, and with our calendar split between 80 minutes and 60-minute races, we're in for an absolute fun season of note where drivers have to really think what do they need to do to step up the game. As we do see likes of Andre Macheka coming into pit lane. He's going to be getting himself sorted. He does hand over the lead of the race, and it is getting busy in the pits. Chris Stalls, Fleming Bauer, all in the pits. So Henry Mayer takes over the lead of the race with Brandon Kruger in second place. Martin Jacobs holds on to third place for our hypercar class. Mordre Claessens is fourth position with Gerrit Bukes. Chris Stalls, Jakob Kutzer, Fleming Bauer, and Chris Collison are making their way through. Fleming Bauer in the pits. Chris Collison dives in. Kyle Oosthuizen into pit lane for our LMP3 field. Dion Karp in the pit lane as well. Dennis Gillett looking to dive into pit lane. He will be going from third. Lawrence Barnhurst trying to get the grip back underneath him to rejoin and try and close up the distance. Esteban Torres leads out our GT3 field with Johan Blöcknote, his teammate, in second place. Stanton Augustus down into third, along with Jody Cinnamon, who is fighting out there in the Porsche as he is getting absolutely mugged by the prototypes at the moment. From the LMP3s, you can see he's got the same amount of power and just needs to try and clear on by. It's not going to be an easy time though, as Anton Lubbers gets past Jody Cinnamon and now looks to try and continue on the race. Andre Macheka, after his pit stop, comes out in fifth position. He's got Viertia Buerta for some company, likes of Conrad Martin and Grant McClure now exiting pit lane as it's gotten rather busy out there for the drivers. William Wentworth in 10th position as Bagar Krobler comes on by. It is still a up in the air race for our classes. As the pit stops are done and dusted, we will now see racing straight through to the end. Who has gone and given themselves enough of a run? Martin Jacobs out there in the Cadillac, going a little bit further than Brandon Kruger, Henry Mayer, and Mordre Claessens as they pull into the box. Dennis Gillett, Lawrence Barnhurst, they pull into the box for the LMP3s, and it's William Wentworth, Donovan Leia into the pits, who are now getting their cars sorted out for the remainder of this race. The only driver that hasn't gone into pits at the moment is this driver right here. That is Martin Jacobs, who hasn't gone into the pits. Augustus needs to go into the pits. Jody Cinnamon needs to go into the pits. But for our hypercars, Jacobs trying to go that little bit further and hoping for an overcut to play out in his favor as he has the car snapping around him, trying to keep the grip up as much as possible. That light drizzle from the UK is now starting to play into these cars' lack of grip, as we do see possibly a change of tires on some of the cars. And let's see if we can see if any have gone for wets. Yes, it is. Henry Mayer on wets, Kruger on wet, Clausen on wet, Bauer on wets, Jakob still out there on the slicks. Oosthuizen, Cup, Gillett, Lammers, and Bonus all out on wets. Pacheco pulls into pit, is going out. He's on wets as well. Victoria Cinnamon and Blöcknote all into the pits. So the only car out on dries in one of the more difficult of the cars and doing a darn well good job of keeping it all in check is this driver. Martin Jacobs out in the Cadillac Hypercar. He does pull it into the pits after fighting the car, fishtailing every step of the way. Every time he gets on that power, that car snapped at his heels. Really gone and turned it into a little bit of a difficult race for our drivers. And now that we've gone and switched things up with a change of conditions, which most drivers didn't actually plan for. They had a little bit more of a dry weather for about an hour in practice. And they saw that the clouds were rolling in, but not quite there as yet. And suddenly they had a little bit of a downpour coming in that's just changed up the whole evolution of this race. Chris Collison out from the Stingers Racing team. looks to carry on in the Toyota as it stands as Jaco Kutzer goes out a bit wide in the Ferrari, trying to find any grip out there that's going to work out in his favor, but not turning into the easiest of runs. Henry Mayer takes over the lead of the race away from likes of Martin Jacobs. Brandon Kruger gets a pass, and Martin coming out of pit lane loses out to Mordred Claessens, but big turn of events is Fleming Bauer is ahead of Chris Stalls, who is the defending champion in the Hypercars. And I do want to also point out, this is a driver that was leading the race and checked out a long way ahead, did an earlier pit stop, and it hasn't played out in his favor. So not a good run for Chris Stalls at the moment. Still holds the fastest lap of the race, but lies in 6th position. This is the biggest drop he's had during the course of any season, and season 3 shows a little bit more fight up towards the top as Fleming Bauer goes up on the inside of Martin Jacobs. Oh, he loses it. The rear fishtailed. He slid. He's in the wall. Fleming Bauer is in the wall. Major damage to that Aston Martin. Rear wing offset, rear suspension hurt, and top 5 now completely out of the running, and he is just battling to bring the car back. Steering bent, and you can see snapping around yet again. Fleming Bauer not having an easy time. Is this quit? And it is. Fleming Bauer out of the race, as that is done and dusted. So Fleming Bauer, Maton also not able to see the end, is going to be kicking himself during the course of that. But what a near miss with Martin, who got a little bit out of shape, had the Aston Martin on the inside, and suddenly it was all gone for the Valkyrie. So Henry Mayer loses his teammate Fleming Bauer out of the race. Now that leaves Brandon Kruger to fight his way through. Mordred Claessens, the youngster, looking to stamp his name in history, looking to take for the very first time in RaceFace history a BMW Hypercar onto the top steps, and looking to fight his way through in a car that most people didn't want to drive. That said, nah, this is not for me. And the BMW, not the quickest one. Carl Oosthuizen with a dominating lead at the moment in the LMP3 field. 13 seconds ahead of Dion Kopp and Dennis Gillett as they try and maneuver their way out through 2nd and 3rd. Anton Lammers in 4th place. Bonlois holds on to 5th. Francois Buerta and Donovan Lehr round out our LMP3 field. But for our GT3s, it's Andre Macherka who's trying to navigate nice and gently and just allowing the prototypes to just find their way past. And remember, he is also trying to find grip, and for our GT3s who are much heavier, 1.3 tons of car right there, Andre Macherka does not want to be offline too much, as otherwise it will land up in a bit of a spin. And Vietia Buerta out in the Aston Martin, trying to close up that distance as quick as he can. Esteban Pretorius holds on to 3rd place. Vietia Buerta looking to take his first podium here in the LMU for RaceFace.Pro in the Aston Martin AMR Evo, and this is an absolutely great run for him to see how he can close up the distance as it stands. Donovan Lehr still keeping on. Oh, as we cut to him, he loses the rear. Apologies for that. I know a bit of commentator's curse coming into play. I'm definitely going to get it in the ear from Donovan a little bit later. Francois Buerta also in a little bit of a sticky situation as he is fighting for overall track position with Rob van der Heever in the GT3. So Donovan Lehr, Francois Buerta a little bit further down from where they wanted to be, as Rob van der Heever in 11th position, not able to close the distance to Arno Kraus at the moment. He's got Bego Krobler trying to keep it all together. Field starting to open up, and drivers starting to figure out what is the game plan here. How can they go that little bit further? And unfortunately, 4 cars not able to see the end thus far. As we gone past 45 minutes, we got 43 minutes and 35 seconds left of this race. Plenty of action still out on circuit. 14 of our GT3s still circulating. 7 of our LMP3s and 7 of our Hypercars in torrential rain as that spray starting to get worse and worse here at Silverstone. As our Valkyrie screams on by, Brandon Kruger tries to close the distance to Henry Mayer, throwing in the car around, up on the inside, outside, seeing where exactly can he get the drive at the moment. And it is Henry Mayer who's starting to battle with that grip. The Aston Martin naturally in the way gets a little bit more wild underneath. The only car that doesn't utilize a hybrid system with a V12 that sounds magnificent in the car. It looks to fight out against the Peugeot 9X8, which so far Crystals has taken that car to a double championship victory. As we do see Brandon Kruger launches up on the inside, side by side they go, but it is going to be Henry Mayer with a bit more top end. Looks to try and clear the Peugeot as fast as possible, but Kruger showing his nose, starting to get a little bit more out there, saying, listen buddy, I'm coming for you, and whether you like it or not, you're about to have a big problem as they get right onto the back of our Porsche. Jody Cinnamon, who just mines out of the way for the hypercars and nearly turning in to the likes of Brandon Kruger, who's absolutely committed to the rear wing of Henry Mayer as it stands. He wants to try and get that pass done and dusted. A little bit of a look on the inside, got out of the slipstream, second guessed it, lost that little bit of time, slips the rear out as they go through the long right-hander, and now it's going to be flat down, hard on the brakes. Who's got the better rotation? Yeah, it's got the Peugeot. We're going and getting the advantage over the Valkyrie, but just nowhere to get on by. Henry Mayer slows it down on the apex and ensures that he can keep up the pace. These two fighting for first overall and first in class are giving it absolutely hammer and tongs. Mordred Claessen's in third place. Martin Jacobs out in fourth. Chris Stalls in fifth. Ferret Bucas and Chris Collison round out the rest of our hypercar field. Kruger looks for the inside line and just not quite getting the drive in hand there. Needs to really go for this end. He does. He runs Albert White nearly into the back of the LMP3. Henry Mayer loses out that top spot. And now drivers trying to figure out what is the next plan. Dion Cup and Dennis Gillett hold on to second and third for the LMP3s. And Carl Oosthuizen holds on to the lead of the LMP3s. Andre Macherka, Virtia Buerta, and the likes of Esteban Pretorius continue the charge, holding on for our GT3 field. But the closest fight, as it stands, has to go to the likes of our hypercars. And we get further notes here. Jaco Kutzer out of the race. That's another hypercar retiring. Joining Fleming Bauer, who landed up with that big accident early on. Todd, our only GT3 out of the race. Sean Fierce and Yuppie Simons, who is in the LMP3, unfortunately not able to see it to the end. So a bit of a blow to go and see another hypercar like Jaco Kutzer out of the race, but just having the car not working with him under these conditions. A circuit that everyone knows, a circuit everyone's raced on, but has not raced on LMU. A brand new DLC dropped and now looks to carry it on with the likes of Silverstone and the LMP3s coming out for the ELMS here on LMU, our Le Mans Ultimate, and round one of the Le Mans Ultimate Championship here at RaceFace.Pro is really starting to heat up. And the big talking point is our previous champion only holds on to 5th place, but only just at the moment, as we do see a little bit of pass on Esteban Pretorius. He mines out of the way for the RT8. He does not want to be caught out in the mix here. Runs out a bit wide and does see the hypercars clearing through the mess. Brandon Kruger didn't lose too much time while trying to get round like Esteban Pretorius. What is it going to be like for Virtia Buerta out in the Aston Martin, holding on to that top spot? Kruger looking to go the long way around on the outside, loses a bit of drive, gets a rear kicking out underneath him, and here comes Henry Mayer, takes the pass, nice and easy around the outside. A little bit different to what Brandon Kruger had but it's also slowed him up enough that Esteban Pretorius has got him locked in sight yet again. So, drivers hoping to really make it work, as Andre Macheca, next of the drivers to deal with the hypercars, his first place of GT3, deals with first place and second place of the hypercars. Macheca having to straighten up the steering through Magnussen Beckett's to avoid any contact against Henry Mayer and Brandon Kruger. Mine's out of the way of that spray, and here comes Henry Mayer on the brakes, late as ever, trying to go around the outside. Brandon Kruger trying to keep that all locked in, and it's still got to be Henry Mayer locked in for the inside, into the left-hander. Henry Mayer keeps ahead. Brandon Kruger tried for the up and under, couldn't quite get the drive, stuck to the rear wing, looks to push on that little bit more, and giving it everything he's got to make it work out in his favor. Brandon Kruger had the lead of the race for a little bit, and now the 007, the Aston Martin Valkyrie, coming out from the Pandacity team, has the likes of Brandon Kruger deep on the inside, side by side they go, and Henry Mayer getting really out of shape on the throttle. Thankfully, a little bit of room given by Brandon Kruger for him to straighten the car up. But for how long can he keep going, as Kruger got a much better drive out of the corner, and now just looking to utilize a bit of top end. Unfortunately, the Peugeot not having the greatest of top end over the Valkyrie. He looked for the inside, not close enough for that pass, had to back out of it, and now looking for the next opportunity around the outside. Looks for the switchback, couldn't get that switchback done and dusted as they catch up to Jody. That is the likes of Rob van der Heever out there in the Ferrari 296. He mines out of the way for the fighting duo. Gets a whole lot of spray in his face from Kruger and the likes of Henry Mayer at the moment. But it does look like Kruger tapped off the gas quite a bit there. Lost the distance and now needs to figure out what is the big plan here. Another little battle starting to brew. Viertia Buerta and Esteban Pretorius closing up to one another. Grant Leclerc having Bego Hrobler for a bit of company as well. It's Chris Collison trying to make his way through, and there is the first of our LMP3s, the 55 of Kyle Oosthuizen, looking to battle his way through. Got a dominating lead of 15 seconds over the LMP3 field, and now looks to carry that on a little bit further. Back up to our hypercars as Brandon Kruger, Henry Mayer still brawling out. No room for error as both drivers really trying to push themselves a little bit more. It is a sprint race of 35 minutes, and the drivers need to figure out what is the big game plan here. Kruger going and turning in a couple of times. That car very, very pointy underneath him and very, very twitchy under braking, which he has to be so careful of. Henry Mayer, every time he gets on the gas, that V12 lighting up the rears, sliding him through and through. So it's all on pure throttle control as it stands. The Aston Martin, the only car in the hypercar field with no hybrid system, has got the biggest of engines versus the 3 litres that he's got tailing behind him, but is still giving it everything he can to keep ahead of Brandon Kruger as they go side by side yet again. Kruger holds the inside line. He lost out that drive, and there was Henry Mayer. Keeps his foot firmly in it and continues to open up the distance. These two are going for the long haul as the rest of our field has split up from amongst one another. Closest is the likes of Pretorius and Buerta as it stands, 1.5 in the GT3s, but our closest fight is the hypercars as they circle round our likes of the Lexus GT3, and Kruger snapping at the heels at the moment, battling and doing everything he can. Honor Kraus has the cars come by. Bego Hrobler is the next one to feel the pressure. Sorry, not Bego Hrobler. It might be William Wentworth. No, it was not William Wentworth. One thing about having all the same livery, it tends to make things a little bit more difficult, and especially when they've got the same number. Oh, big mistake for Henry Mayer, missing out the corner, and there goes Brandon Kruger. Gets on the gas, makes his way by, and really guns it down to the line. Brandon Kruger retakes the lead of the race. Henry Mayer trying to pick up the pieces after that very, very crucial mistake, as he now needs to close up the distance. And now the gap's starting to open up, nearly a second between Kruger and Mayer. So Kruger's really laying it down, hoping to give himself a little bit more. That being said, let's take a look at what their energy levels are looking like. Claessen's with 35% in that BMW, Mayer with 67% in the Aston Martin, Kruger with 48% in the Peugeot. Jacobs in the Cadillac has got 76%. Stills in the Peugeot has got 58% left in the tank. They were looking to try and go a little bit more. Once again, they can regen under braking, and that is going to be a little bit more difficult in these conditions as Henry Mayer stands on the gas and has that rear snapping at him again. Just trying everything he can to get the passes done and dusted. However, also having a very difficult time trying to get the power on early enough to continue on with the race as they clear the LMP3 field. So, with that being said, let's take a look at our hypercars and who's where, what's happening. It's Brandon Kruger up in the lead with Henry Mayer in second. Mordred Claesen in the BMW holds on to third with Martin Jacobs in fourth place in the Cadillac. Chris Stills rounds out our top five. Harry Bucas in the Toyota, and Chris Collison follows through in the Toyota. However, Kleinans unable to get out during the course of the race. Kutza and Bauer have been retired due to damage on their cars. Looking over to our LMP3s, it's Carl Oosthuizen who leads out the field. Dion Cup runs in second place. Dennis Gillett along with Anton Lummers and Lawrence Badenhurst as it stands. Couple of drivers still out there in the LMP3 field, not giving up as yet. Francois Buerta is looking to see it through to the end. Well done on him. And Donovan Lair. Hasn't been the easiest race for those two drivers as they look to try and see the end of the race. John Fears and Yuppie Simons, unfortunately retiring, as we do see Donovan Lair coming in. And I think this is possibly a unscheduled pit stop for him. And he is going to be driving through, but no, this is a unscheduled pit stop for Donovan Lair. And he will be stopping in his car sorted and heading back out onto circuit. Taking a look over to our GT3s, it's Andre Macheka who leads out the field. Vietia Buerta holds on to second place, a little bit closer to him. Esteban Pretorius, who is right on his heels. Jody Sediman, Conrad Martin, Stanton Augustus, Grant Leclerc, Bagar Krubler in 8th position. Arno Kraus, along with Rob van der Heever, William Wentworth in 11th. 12th is Marcus Friesen, David van Veek in 13th position. And last of the runners, unfortunately, never mind, Jan Blicknoit out of this race as well. So Blicknoit, a retirement in our GT3 field after everything. He really tried to give it all he's got, and unfortunately, not working out. As we do see the Griffin Sim Racing team minding out of the way, does allow for Vietia Buerta and Esteban Pretorius to come on by as these two look to challenge each other for second and third in this race. 13 minutes left of the round one of LMU Championship RaceFace.Pro Season 3 here at Silverstone. For the very first time, we race at Silverstone in the LMU, and very first time we get to see LMP3 along with our GT3. Vietia Buerta looking to defend, holds the inside line. Esteban Pretorius carves his way through, and Buerta does look like he opened up the door to allow Pretorius to come through, and now looking to just pull along a little bit further. So interesting time for Vietia Buerta. Was he concerned about fuel? Has he short-fueled? Well, this is all that's going to be running through his head as he sacrifices that second place to the likes of Esteban Pretorius and looks to try and close up the distance as much as possible as it stands for our GT3. So, with the race starting to tame down as it stands, everyone trying to figure out what is going to be the next plan here at Silverstone. It's going to be an incredible run for our drivers. Plenty to go on. This is first round, and we have got 8 rounds of racing action to deal with as well. And each of it's got their own unique. So we are in for an 80-minute race here at Silverstone. It's going to be 60 minutes for round 2, 60 minutes for round 3, round 4 will go back to an 80 minutes. So every third race, we will be doing 80 minutes worth of racing, which means those pit stops have to be thought through very, very quickly. And what can do? It's an extra 20 minutes, but an extra 20 minutes means that you can land up making the most mistakes in your championship. Setups are crucial on these cars to battle out, and it is going to be a bit of a tricky calendar to deal with, as we've got Silverstone now, as we do see one of our LMP3s parked off into the dirt. We've got the likes of Imola, Portimão, Sebring, Bahrain, Spa, Monza, and Interlagos, who are the next racers to come and enjoy here in the world of LMU, as drivers transitioning over from the likes of ACC. Well, take a look at this. Mordred Claessen's getting a little bit upset, and we got the fight of the two unique cars. BMW versus Cadillac. Claessen's doing everything he can to keep Martin Jacobs at bay. Martin snapping his heels around. A quick flash of the lights there saying, listen, buddy, a little bit wild under the brakes here. Let's take it a bit more cautiously. But the BMW now has to deal with the brute force American, the Cadillac. As that V8 screams for power, Mordred Claessen's in the straight 6. Now looks to try and utilize every bit of power possible. Martin Jacobs going a little bit into the puddles as well, trying to cool those tires down as much as possible as they fight for the final stop on the podium. Third place is here between two of the most unique cars in the hypercar field, our BMW and Cadillac, coming into fray. And I'm going to say personal love goes out for the BMW, while my teammates seem to be the personal love for the Cadillac. And well, I mean, when you got a soundtrack of the Cadillac going and fighting his way through, it really tells the story. I can't wait to see 2026, where we get the Evo version of the BMW coming into the world of LMU for 2026. Martin Jacobs not getting the drive he needs here at Silverstone. Has to be a little bit more patient after that snap around he had a little bit earlier behind Mordred Claessen's. That cost him a fair chunk of time, and also has brought Chris Stalls a little bit closer, 10.3 seconds. So Chris Stalls slowly chipping away, pulling himself up towards the top yet again. Martin Jacobs not getting the drive needed on Mordred Claessen's as yet, but continues to hunt down quicker through Sector 2 and Sector 3 versus Mordred Claessen's. But Mordred got himself all locked in for the first sector as they make their way through Maggots and Beckett's. It is up to a chase, and who's going to have the run, as they will absolutely gun it for the Hangar Straight. And it is going to be the likes of Martin Jacobs not able to really close down the distance on Mordred Claessen's, who's got a far better exit on the way through. Sorry, that wasn't Maggots Beckett's. It was a little bit further back. But Mordred Claessen's and Martin Jacobs now deal with our 11th place GT3 William Wentworth, who's just trying to keep his line, and that is going to be a tough time for Mordred Claessen's as Martin Jacobs closed the distance on him quite quickly. Try to look for that pass. William Wentworth minding out of the way, not wanting to get too involved in the fight, but continues on the charge. Good to see William Wentworth joining LMU, a very, very competent driver from the world of ACC, and now having a shift of sim focus to the world of LMU, going to be getting quicker and quicker. And I do believe he was the gold champion in ACC at one point here in RaceFace.Pro. We'll find out a bit more detail on that, but we've got some proper talent in all the different classes. Bego Krobler and Grant Leclerc battling it out. This is an interesting one. Bego Krobler switched to the likes of the Lexus. Previous season, he was in the Mercedes, and now knows exactly where that car can get a little bit more of a push. Where can they step up the pace on it, and knows where to push Grant Leclerc that little bit more. Grant had a little bit of a rough season in Season 2, wasn't able to really go and make it work out in his favour, but he's hoping to really try and close distance to Stanton Augustus and Conrad Martin, who hold on to 6th and 5th position. But in the rearview mirror, The small block Lexus V8 up against the beautiful Mercedes as they carry on the drive. And Bago Krobler not backing out of the run yet, wants to try and close up the distance. That dry line starting to form more and more here, and it is a very fine line to work with. If you go a little bit over, you're into the wet stuff. You're going to lose that traction, but if you hang on the dry line, you will start to heat up these wet weather tires more and more and more. That means that your grip levels are going to jump off a cliff. You will get them extremely hot, overheating. So you start looking around the circuit, seeing it, where exactly is there a puddle for you to drive through to try and cool those tires down a little bit, even if it's a degree at this point. That is everything that's needed to move on. But both drivers keeping onto the racing line, following their way through, trying to see what's going to work out in their favor. Grant Leclerc going and making sure he can open that distance just a tad more at the moment. Bago Krobler hammering on to the back of him, looking for any pass at the moment, and not going to be an easy time. Jacobs loses out to Klaassen by 1.3 seconds. Kruger leads out the field. Mayer in second place will be going and chomping at the bit, but Grant Leclerc outbraked himself, and here comes Bago Krobler. Contact! Grant Leclerc trying to bring the car back on, and went right across the nose of Bago Krobler's Lexus. And that puts to bed that little fight going on. Grant outbraked himself, slid, understeered, and suddenly he had the nose of Bago Krobler's Lexus. Just that little bit of a nudge to go and move him completely offline, and that has opened up the distance between the two of them. Now Bago Krobler needs to put the hammer down and start to clear Grant Leclerc as much as possible. For Grant, he's got to try and pick up some of the pieces, cool those tires down again, and get right back onto the attack if he wishes to get that 7th position. Back up to the top as Viertia Buerta looks in the mirror. Mordre Klaassen's on to the back of him. And the two of these drivers have had a little bit of a checkered history in past, but now with the hypercars, Mordre Klaassen, a quick flash of light saying, please Viertia, don't cost me time here, as he just allows him to get on by. Martin Jacobs also gallops on his way through, trying to close up to the back of that whale shark and seeing what he can do to make it work out in his favor. Viertia Buerta, who holds on to 3rd position of the GT3s. Esteban Torres, 2nd place for the RTA team in the GT3s, and Andre Macheka leads out the run. But take a look at this. Martin Jacobs got caught behind Esteban Torres, and that is once again snapped that toe that he had to Mordre Klaassen's, and will have to try and close the distance up yet again. Next one they're going to try and come a little bit closer to is Andre Macheka, who is ahead of our GT3s, who's going to have both the hypercars. Nailing him on the straight. This is going to work out in his favor, and here comes the likes of Jacobs. Clean pass. Pass Andre Macheka, and continues on the drive. Let's go a little bit further back. Conrad Martin and Stanton Augustus fight out for that top 5. As Conrad Martin looks at his mirror, that bright silver is really quite a stunning show on the Ferrari. But Stanton Augustus in the custom Stingers livery BMW M4 GT3 looks to try and put the pressure on, wanting that top 5. Carp into the pits. Lummers into the pits. For our LMP3s, Westhuizen will be smiling on that one. Dennis Gillett, who will also be trying to close up a distance to the likes of Dion Cup, has managed to try and break some of that gap that he had, but an interesting time as Anton Lummers still in the box. A quick taking a look up on the jacks, and that is not a good sign for Anton Lummers at the moment, as he's going to be losing time to Lawrence Bondhurst, and will be thinking, what does he need to do to try and bring it all back? Conrad Martin, Stanton Augustus continue on their charge. 18 minutes left to this race. Everyone still pushing for the first of the points of the season in this 80-minute race here at Silverstone. The first time in Le Mans Ultimate history at RaceFace.Pro, we're racing on it. And the conditions are usual UK conditions. That little bit of a drizzle, a little bit of a rain, and a whole lot of thinking on strategy to see who will make their way to the top. So Conrad Martin and Stanton Augustus continue to open up the gap between one another and looking to really stand above all. But this is going to be a bit of a difficult situation as both drivers are not giving up the fight. They're catching up to one of our Lexus and will be trying to get past cleanly, and that is Conrad Martin, who was quite aggressive on the inside line, wanted the pass done and dusted as fast as possible, didn't want to be held up too much. Now look to see where can he make up that little bit of time. Stanton Augustus closes up on the rear, and top end really is a bit of a tell here. Conrad Martin getting up to 236, while Stanton Augustus was only up to 230. 6 kilometer difference down the straight line. That really does tell of how much aero drag he's actually got on that BMW. That 6 kilometers is starting to affect him down the straight, and it really does show. Anton Lummers still gets himself going, but he's behind our GD3, our top three. He's got Vietia Buerta in third place ahead of him. Francois Buerta into the pits. Donovan Leia back out onto the track as drivers continue on, looking towards the end of the race of who's going to be a little bit closer. As we do see the likes of Martin Jacobs trying to go a long way around Bega Hrobler, who's got Grant Leclerc a little bit too close for company. Martin trying to close up to Mordred Claassen after that little bit of a snap around they had earlier. They now trying to stand on the gas. Crystals leads out with the fastest lap time in the race, 144.3 in the hypercar class, as we've got the likes of Dion Kopp, who's got the fastest lap time in the LMP3s at 155.2, and Vietia Buerta holds on to the fastest lap time in the GT3 as it stands. Tank starting to run a bit low, tires starting to run a little bit out of life on these cars, and drivers having to think, what can they do to push that little bit more, to close that distance, and to be a little bit closer to the sharp end of the field. Let's quickly take a look at how many losses and gains most of the field has had. Starting off with our hypercars, Kruger's up 1, Mayer up 1, Claassen's up 2, Jacobs up 3, Stills unfortunately down 4 positions from the start of the race. He was leading out for a long period of time. Unfortunately, when it came down to the pit stop, he didn't quite have the best of calls. Claire Bukes remains in that 6th place. Chris Collison up 2. Clay Nuts didn't go out for the race, but Kutzer and Bauer a DNF for both those hypercars. Moving on to our LMP3s as we take a look at the gains and losses. Oosthuizen still leads out and remains where he started. Dion Kopp up 1. Dennis Gillett up 1. Lawrence Bondhurst up 3. Lummers and Buerta remain where they started. And Donovan Leia up 2 from where he started, as we have seen the likes of Fisser not able to get out on the circuit. Fears and Simons going and retiring early on for their race. As we do see our leader carving through the likes of Francois Buerta, who opened up the gap and allowed that pass to happen. Now, take a look at our GD3, one of our more competitive classes that we've seen from last season. Andre Macheka up 5 positions from where he started. Pretorius down 1, Buerta up 4, Cinnamon and Martin up 6 positions respectively. Augustus down 3 positions. Krobler and Leclerc up 1 position. Kraus and Wentworth up 3. Van Dijk down 6. Van der Heever up 3. Friesen up 1. Blicknote down 10 and out. So he is just, unfortunately, going and sitting on the sidelines and will be a DNF. Same as the likes of Mouton, who wins and became one of our first early retirements in our GT3s. Grant Leclerc pulling into pit lane. Big problem coming into there. But take a look. Conrad Martin suddenly has our 2 hypercars, the Claassens and Martin Jacobs, come on by, and that's allowed likes of Stanton to get right onto the back of him. And Stanton is going to push a little bit harder. So due to the little kerfuffle that's gone on, well, Mordred Claassen has got a little bit of a tussle with Martin Jacobs. And behind them, Stanton Augustus gets the pass on Conrad Martin. The BMW full of stingers clears the Treehouse Works Racing of Conrad Martin and now looks to open up the distance. Jody Cinnamon and Vietia Buerta as Vietia into the pits What a blow. This is going to knock him off the knock him off the podium. Jody Sediman's going to be happy on this one. Viertia Burta pushed a little too hard. Got tyres changed. Is this going to work out in his favor? But many of these drivers now are starting to feel the pain. So, as we take a look, wet tyres all around, except for Burta, who is on mediums. Here is Mordre Claessen's final 13 minutes to go. Dives into the pits. That allows Martin Jacobs to continue on the drive. Is Martin on his debut outing here at RaceFace.Pro LMU Championship Season 3 out in a car that everyone has put to one side? Gonna be on that podium? Well, we're gonna have to take a look. Claessen's in the pits. Stills gains a position. And Mordre Claessen losing out that drive. What was the call to go and get him in the box? Did he not have enough energy in the car? Did he not have enough in the tank to push himself any further? Is he swapping out to a different set of tires? So he's heading back out on circuit, so I presume he has gone onto a new set of tires, and that is dries. So Mordre Claessen out onto dries. Now looks to try and push that a little bit more, and also was concerned on the amount of energy left in the car as well. So he's gone for the dry tires to get the push, but also needed to get that pit stop done and dusted for a bit of energy. And you can see the greasy circuit might not be what is needed for these tires. They are absolutely ice cold at the moment out on slicks. Did he make the wrong call and lose out that third place to the likes of Martin Jacobs at the moment? So a big change for the running as Andre Macheka leads out the GT3. Esteban Pistorius holds on second. Jody Sediman, first time in 3 seasons, stands on the podium at the moment as he looks to try to push his way through. Martin Jacobs on his debut outing, also looking to get himself onto the podium. Carl Oosthuizen, Dan Cup and Dennis Gillett look to try and battle it out for the top 3 of our LMP3 field. Dennis Gillett also hasn't been able to get onto the podium during the course of the previous seasons. So good to see drivers giving it their absolute all, trying to figure out what is the big game plan here. How far are they willing to go, especially in a tough race right here around Silverstone. I mean, this is going to be a really interesting time for drivers, but the question is, has the change of tyres made it work? Macheka going into the wet to try and cool the tyres down, and also allowing the likes of Chris Collison to get on by, and we'll be seeing Esteban Pistorius, but it's starting to show on the tyres how much of a wear they're starting to get. And are they going to be able to keep it alive for the next 10 minutes in this race? It's always a really difficult one. And let's see how will these drivers push themselves along. As we've got further word, unfortunately, Yippee Simons ended up with a bit of contact. And that was the reason for his retirement during the course of this race. And it was one of our earlier retirements, along with Sean Fears, who was second to that. Maton, Fleming Bauer was then a little bit further down, along with Jakob Kutzer going and unfortunately out of the race as well. Jan Blicknote, also a retirement in our GT3s, who was having quite a good run out there. Andre Macheka and Pistorius still fight on for the top spot. Both tires starting to fade a little bit as the track is drying up here at Silverstone, and we expect to see those quick lap times come through, but not going to be for those on wets. They're going to be desperately hunting down every bit of wet patch here on Silverstone to try and cool these tires down as much as possible as they push harder and harder. Macheka to the middle of the circuit, goes to the inside. Torius trying to go around the outside. It's going to be late on the anchors to make it work out for them. However, not an easy time as each of the drivers just only scrambling on, and it's late on the brakes for Pretorius into the back of Macheka. Couldn't get that drive underneath him. Really had to think just a little bit to plan here. Andre Macheka trying to hold on to the lead of the race. Pretorius hunting him down. Here comes one of our Peugeots clearing past. And that might have been Crystal. It wasn't Crystal, so that had to be... That would have been Brandon Kruger. Yes, it was. It was leader of our Hypercars, Brandon Kruger, who got that pass done and dusted. And he has cleared Henry Mayer by a good margin at the moment. Over 8.5 seconds between them. So our closest fight is for the top spot, as Pretorius does get the inside. He's got the drive and takes over the lead of the race. How long can he keep it though? As Macheka is trying to go the long way around. Looks to try go for the up and under. The BMW has got some serious cornering underneath it, but can it beat out the screaming V10 of the Lamborghini Huracan Evo 2 of Etienne Pretorius at the moment as they fight their way along? The Lambo tries to get a little bit more pace as they fight it on. Macheka goes off circuit, unable to get grip and losing out even more time. Is Macheka's tires been pushed that little too hard that he's got nothing left to fight with? Has he got too much understeer that will be costing him time? Henry Mayer tries to go around the outside of Oosthuizen, gets the pass and continues on the drive. Late under braking as Andre Macheka tries to close up the distance to Pretorius at first place, starting to fleet ahead of him. And now Pretorius looking to take that checkered flag. He's got 6.5 minutes to make this work. Macheka is not going to make it easy for him. He's been right at the top, looking to take the championship in the GT3s from last season and the previous, and now looking to do it all over again. Conrad Martin holds on to the top 5 with Stanton Augustus in the likes of 6th place. For the Singers Racing, clawing his way, trying to get a little bit closer to that Ferrari of Conrad Martin. But it is now starting to open up amongst drivers. Everyone trying to figure out what is the next game plan here. And there is going to be the constant talk. Where is the leader? Because as soon as leader gets a white flag, means that I don't have to do that extra lap. And at the moment, Pretorius riding out a bit wide. And here comes Macheka, gets a bit unstable. Brings it back side by side. They go nose to tail. And it is going to be Pretorius up on the inside. Macheka gets a take slapper. He saves the car, but loses the drive as he put the power down. And there was just no grip on those weights. He loses out that drive. Pretorius checking out of that battle. Conrad Martin, Stanton Augustus, they fight it out as Chris Collison come on by in the Toyota Hypercar. Stanton Augustus out there for a debut run in the LMU field here at RaceFace.Pro for the championship. And we've got Conrad Martin, first time racing in the Ferrari 296. This is a driver that for quite a lot in world of ACC and in LMU has been a die-hard McLaren fan. This time around, switching it up, diving into the Ferrari 296 to see if it's going to work out in his favor. It's always just a tough time out there for many of the drivers, and who is going to be able to get that little bit more of a run as Conrad Martin tries to leg it away from Stanton Augustus at the moment, utilizing a little bit more top end to his favor. Well, Stanton, on the other hand, has got more cornering. He's got a little bit more aero on the car to try and keep him in check. Martin Jacobs out there in the Cadillac lost track of Mordre Claessen's when Mordre pitted, but now might be losing the run for third place as Chris Stalls has gained up to the back of him, clearing the LMP3s, and now Martin Jacobs in the Cadillac for his debut outing, now looking to get his way onto the podium. It's got 3 minutes and 56 seconds, and he's fighting against the two-time Hypercar champion of the RaceFace.Pro, Chris Stalls, who wins and pitted that little bit earlier, cost him some time, and now needs to try and work his way through as he doesn't want to lose points. He doesn't want to run into any issues at the moment. Martin battling his way through out on the wet tyres. And along with Chris Stills, who seems to be a little bit more favourable at the moment with his tyres. Oh, so close as they get into the back of the LMP3 field. And that's Martin Jacobs' drive killed off. And now the GT3 is coming to play. Quick flash of the lights of Chris Stills. Takes the dive as well. Maggots and Beckett's got very busy for all the classes. And there's contact. One of our Lexus getting turned round. And that was unfortunately contact with the LMP3, and they're both able to get going. We just saw them in the back of the camera shot there. Not an easy running for them as we keep an eye to the sharp end of the field as Chris Stills fights his way through. Look to go around the outside, trying to hunt down the inside. Is he committed to make it work? And backs out of it as Martin Jacobs outbrakes himself a little bit, trying to defend the line. And it is going to be a brute force charge. Chris Stills going and trying to get himself onto that podium yet again, but Martin Jacobs making it difficult. 2 minutes and 25 seconds to go in this race, each of them doing a 1 minute 44 and a 1 minute 45 as it stands, with Martin Jacobs slightly slower than Chris Stills, and Chris trying everything, looked around the outside, and it is going to be the likes of Martin trying to defend. He's going to look for the up and under. Chris Stills tries to get it done. Who's got the power? And it is going to be the Cadillac to get the run. Chris Stills gets off the gas. Quick flash of the lights there saying, oh boy, that was a run of note. But Martin Jacobs has every right to fight and hold his position. Brandon Kruger into the pits. Henry Mayer takes over the lead of the race. Well, that is a big blowout for Kruger, who legged it away now in pit lane. And here comes Martin Jacobs and Chris Stills. They're going to be gunning their way by. Kruger will be slotting in behind the two fighting duo. Are we going to see the likes of Martin Jacobs, Chris Stills, and Brandon Kruger fight between one another? Catching up to our LMP3s, Martin Jacobs not having an easy time, hangs on back, and that's allowed Chris Stills to close up. Brandon Kruger also sees that there is a chance here as Chris looks for the slipstream on the LMP3. Gets a little bit hooked in the dirt there. Kruger going and seeing the guys come on by. Under a minute to go. Henry Mayer leads out the race. He's saved enough in terms of fuel and virtual energy to push himself out a little bit more. The question is Martin Jacobs and Chris Stills going to be okay? Because the next one is, what is the tyres? Because is the tyres going to be switched up for Kruger? He's still on wet. He only went in for that fuel. As they march their way around, it is still the battle as the Stingers Racing starts to see these two come flying on by. Stills around the outside. Martin Jacobs outbrakes himself. Loses out the drive. He has the car snap around him. Goes back towards the inside of Stills. Has his nose firmly chopped off. And here comes Kruger to join in the mix as they get right behind Conrad Martin. Conrad runs out wide. And there's Stills losing out the drive. Martin Jacobs goes and boxes in him. Gets the pass done. Kruger's going to try and come for the outside. It is nail biting. 3 cars for the fight of second and third at the moment. And it is everyone's choice of where it's going to be as Martin Jacobs, Chris Stills, and Brandon Kruger look to fight their way through. Henry Mayer will be looking to go and take the checkered flag. Martin Jacobs looking to try and charge his way through. And this is going to be time. Rob Fondieva sees the cars. He goes straight on. Chris Stills into the dirt. Chris Stills outbraked himself into the dirt and lost out the drive. Sorry, that was Brandon Kruger that lost out. Brandon Kruger into the wall. Chris Stills into the pits. What on earth has turned on? And this was, was the end of the race. Jingos, we missed it out. Didn't see the check flag there. Henry Mayer gets to win. Martin Jacobs, Chris Stills in third. Brandon Kruger will get fourth. And finishing up fifth will be Mordray Clausen's. Garrett Bukes will round out our top 6. But the winner of our LMP3s will go out to the likes of Kyle Oosthuizen, who lapped the entirety of the field. Dion Cup will hold on second. Dennis Gillett, followed by Lawrence Bonlos, Anton Lummers, Francois Buerta, and Donovan Lair round out our pack. And for our GT3s, Essian Pretorius, Andre Macheca, along with Jody Cinnamon, will round out our top 3. And good job for Jody, finally hooking into that podium and some great racing. Viertier Buerta, after the late pit stop, will hold on to 4th place, followed by Conrad Martin, Stanton Augustus, Arno Kraus, Begor Krobler, William Wedgwood, David van Veek, Rob van der Heeven, Marcus Friesen, Grant Leclerc, Jan Blicknote, Grumman Todd, going and unable to see the end of this race. And what a race it was, folks. Honestly, some really, really exciting times here in the world of LMU. And as we definitely take a look to some of the great races, we're looking forward to having a chat to the drivers as well, who fought it out this entire time for round 1. Season 3 couldn't get any closer if you tried, and honestly turned into a race of note for many of the drivers during the course of this race. So, I mean, we've seen some close racing, we've seen some difficult moments, and we've seen drivers try and push themselves that little bit more. However, it has turned into a race of nutrition for all of our competitors to see it work out in their favor. This is going to be an interesting time, and I know a lot of drivers will be going and trying to figure out what is going to be the game plan here, especially heading in for round 2 next week, as they will be fighting out for that top spot. So, as we wait to get all our drivers to join us here in the world of LMU, to go and have a bit of a chat to them after a really phenomenal race. And we will be trying to get them in for a bit of an interview. We can only just take a look back at the close racing. 10 hypercars, 10 of our LMP3s, first time debuting here in the world of RaceFace.Pro for the LMU. Last time we saw LMP3s was in our iRacing Fun season, where it actually was hypercars, LMP3s, and LMP2s. And it's wonderful to see the LMP3s getting some love yet again here in the world of RaceFace.Pro. And it seems like many of the drivers enjoying that beautiful transition over to the world of hypercars. That being said, we have to have a major well done to the winners of the race and where things go. So let's kick it off with a bit of a chat to our GT3 field and bring in 3rd place driver of a GT3, Jody Sediman. Jody, welcome to the commentary box. Finally managing to grab hold of a podium position. 2 seasons of hard work has paid off today. How are you feeling?
Hi, Stephen. Hello, viewers. I'm quite over the moon. My first podium since forever. It feels like forever. But yeah, no, it was good. Conditions was tricky, but I stick to my strat, and yeah, just went for it with a Porsche. It's the first time in the score, first season in the score, and I just went for it. Yeah.
Absolutely great stuff. And take us through that transition period, going from dry to wet, and especially in multi-class racing, never an easy thing. How was it for you to be out there on the grid, knowing that it's the first round of the season, conditions are changing, and you are now aiming at a podium?
Look, Stephen, I was just going for the points. I just wanted to bank some points for the first race. However, the conditions were tricky. The transition was quite tricky. I pitted a lap late into the wets, but I pushed. Luckily, the Porsche has some better grip on the rear, so I could maybe push that extra lap. And then I just looked after my wets, and I had I still had some good tire life left at the end of the race, and I just carried it through. So yeah.
Well, absolutely incredible stuff. Well, next one is Imola. What's the game plan now that you're taking some of the really great motivation after a stellar run in the field?
Yeah, no, Imola is, I'm just going to practice. And like I said, the beginning stages of this league is just banking points. And then from there, once I get comfortable with the car, I will then try and aim higher, go for the win. But at the moment, I'm feeling very comfortable in the Porsche. So yeah, it's a new venture for me, but I'm excited.
Absolutely great stuff. Well, before I let you go, anything you want to say to all our amazing sponsors here in the world of RaceFace, to all the teams and drivers that you're racing against, and most importantly, we cannot forget everyone on the virtual grandstands who have been cheering you along through your entire racing from season 1 right through to season 3.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the viewers. Thank you to the sponsors. Thank you for you, Stephen, as well. Always, streaming the races. And yeah, yes, for a lot more seasons ahead. And yeah, thanks.
Absolutely great stuff. Jody, congratulations on your 3rd place, and go and enjoy the celebrations as you absolutely earned it. What a run. What a bit of excitement. And honestly, has been such a great race. And Jody managing to hook on to that top spot. Talking about hooking on to the top spots, this brings in our 1st place of the GT3s. Unfortunately, we will not have Andre Macheka in for a chat. He has to get some rest after a long day. But we're going to bring in RTA driver Esteban Pretorius. Welcome to the commentary box. And man, oh man, what a race. How are you feeling after that one?
Yeah, it was a tough race. Yeah, I don't know. Felt like a long time coming. Didn't happen last season, but it's a good start for this season, I guess.
Let's go back towards the end of the race. Suddenly, you had a little bit of a difficult time with the BMWs. You had your teammate with you, the likes of Johan Blicknote, who unfortunately retired the car. All of a sudden, you battling out for 1st place against Andre Macheka. What was running through your mind during the course of it?
So just when the rain started to happening, I think halfway through the race, Matejka made the perfect call. Shout out to him for a great race. He made the perfect call to pit for wets. I went a lap longer, which was a mistake. That cost me about 10 seconds, maybe even a bit more. So when I came out of the pits on the wet tires, there was about a 10-12 second gap to Matejka, and I don't know if he overdrove the tires, but I was able to close that gap, and I got him with a couple laps to go.
Still some great racing, and we've seen a lot of drivers switching over the cars. Any reason why you've stuck with the Lamborghini for this season?
I like the way it drives. I feel I still have a bit of potential to unlock in the car. So yeah, I thought, why not give it a go for another season?
Absolutely great stuff. Now, the final thing before I let you go, a lot of new drivers coming and racing with us here at RaceFace.Pro. A lot of new RTA driver names lurking around. What has been the game plan for the rest of the season, considering you're fighting for the championship now?
Yeah, I mean, driving with teammates is fun. I guess that you sort of have that safety net if where you can potentially work together. But at the end of the day, you are also racing them and you want to beat them. So we need to find the balance where at the end of the day, we're still racing each other. And yeah, I mean, we'll just see what happens.
Absolutely great stuff. Well, before I let you go to enjoy the celebrations on your victory in the GT3 field for round 1 of the RaceFace.Pro LMU Championship, anything you want to say to all the drivers and teams out there, and most importantly, our absolutely amazing petrol heads and sponsors that are cheering you on as the season progresses?
No, just a shout out to all the RaceFace admin and sponsors for making this possible, and shout out to Carl and all the RTA boys and the sponsors involved there, and yeah, all the competitors. Yeah, wishing that the rest of the season is just as packed as this one. I mean, we had a full grid, so hopefully it stays that way.
Absolutely great stuff. Well done, Mr. Pretorius, and I hope you enjoy the celebrations, taking the victory for our GT3s. That being said, we're going to bring in the first of our new class joining us this season, our LMP3s, and we're going to kick it off with a driver that's gone from GT3 racing in a McLaren to an LMP3. Dennis Gillett, welcome to the commentary box, and finally getting yourself onto the podium. You've ditched the McLaren, but the LMP3 seems to have played in your favor. How are you feeling?
Yeah, no, I'm quite happy with my result. It was a very, very tricky race. And I only got to DLC last night. I spent about half an hour practicing, and I thought, oh, you've made a big mistake choosing that class. But yeah, I got a fairly stable setup, and I just took it really easy. Made sure I braked about 50 meters earlier than I thought I needed to, just to make sure I didn't snatch a brake and end up spinning. Got a little bit messy towards the end of the race. I had a couple of very slow spins, but lucky didn't damage the car and was able to carry on. So yeah, quite happy with my result.
Now, let's talk about the transition over GT3. We know we've seen you fighting out in the McLaren, but jumping over to the LMP3, more aero, the power to weight ratio is a bit more. Was it a difficult transition? And I know the conditions itself made things a little bit more tricky out there.
Yeah, I think the most difficult thing to get used to is the corner speed you can carry. With the GT3s, obviously they lack the downforce. So you really attack the corner on the brakes, get the car turned, and then accelerate out of it. Where with the LMP3, you've got to be very smooth and try and carry as much speed through the apex of the corner. So when you do make a little mistake, it's normally a really big consequence.
Well, it's always great to hear how that little bit of a transition, that little bit of challenge coming into play. Well, before I let you go to enjoy the celebrations on your third place in a brand spanking new class, anything you would like to say to all the drivers, to the teams out there, to all the amazing sponsors, and most importantly, I think you agree with me on this one, everyone else in the virtual grandstands?
Yes, yeah, no, thanks to all the people that watch us. It always makes it interesting. And thanks to you guys in the commentary box. Obviously, without you guys, we wouldn't be able to enjoy viewing it afterwards. And then also to the sponsors, obviously they make it possible. So yeah, big thanks to everybody.
Absolutely great stuff. Well done, Dennis. I am extremely happy that finally got you in the commentary box to have a chat with us. And congratulations on taking the bronze for our LMP3s.
Thanks very much, guys.
Well, Dennis being one of the drivers that have been quite supportive in the last season. I've got a big smile on my face after him for getting a third place there. Let's bring in another driver from the GT3, moving over to LMP3, Dion Karp, to come and join us. Dion, a little different from the Ferrari last season, but a second place in the LMP3. How are you feeling after that?
That was properly difficult. It was one of the hardest races I've needed to do. That gamble on the slicks was not the smartest thing. That was insanely difficult.
Now, let's talk about this. You're a driver that's been through different conditions across multiple different sims. You've been at the top of the game in ACC. You've been at the top of the game for Automobilisted 2. Now LMU with these LMP3s. How's that transition period been from jumping of a GT3 car into these more prototype cars and comparing it to the other sims that you've had to go and master during the course of it all?
I started racing on high downforce cars, so that's how I learned to sim race. So actually, it was quite at home. It was a nice return to form. I've always struggled with GTs more than anything else, so I think I'll be more competitive this season in a more a downforce car.
Well, the Leisure definitely going and helping you on that one. Take us through the gamble. You mentioned being on slick tires, on greasy conditions. Was it just the thinking of an overcut? Was the thinking of an undercut? Or was it just, I'm going to see how far I can take these tires?
I wanted to see if I could generate tire temperature in front of, before Kyle could. If it dried up enough, I would have a massive advantage. So I took the gamble. I mean, I was going to finish second place anyway. So I took the gamble. It didn't pay off. It took 10 to 12 laps to get any heat in the tires. So it was the right call to stay out on wets. But I feel short anyway, so I needed to pit again. So, but not my best strategic race ever. But P2 is P2, so it was a fun race.
It's a good haul of points. Well, before I let you go to enjoy the celebration with the M&R team, anything you would like to go and shout out to the drivers, to the teams, to the admins in the background, to your team and friends, but most importantly, I think you agree with me on this one, everyone out in the virtual grandstands that watched and cheered on through the race, and especially with a brand new class.
No, just thank you to RaceFace for hosting. As always, it's a lot of fun. The racing is always good. Then just a shout out to any M&R fans out there. This was a properly difficult race. You guys should definitely come join. This LMU League even last season was excellent. I think this season's going to be even better with 3 classes. So thank you so much.
And always pick LMP3 because they're the best class, right?
I think the Hypers would be fun too. I've never driven a Hyper before, but I'll try that next season. We'll see how it goes.
Fair enough. Well, you got second. You got some drive for the championship Dion Cup in our LMP3s. And that being said, there can only be one winner in our LMP3 class, and that's the RTA driver of Kyle Oosthuizen, who got the victory. Kyle, welcome to the commentary box, and wow, from GT3 action last season, taking the victory there, to round one on a brand new circuit in a brand new class. How are you feeling with your victory?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Was really looking forward to driving the LMP3 this season. Silverstone suits it quite well, high downforce. But yeah, I'm feeling good. Good way to start the season.
Definitely a big step. Now, you've been one of the drivers that's been pushing for the LMP3s to be utilized. How was it navigating through a little bit of the traffic in the GT3 class with the LMP3? You've got the same straight line speed because you're utilizing the same 5-liter V8 underneath these cars, but you have that higher power to weight ratio, and also you got a little bit more aero to play with, but the aero wash coming off the cars does make things a little bit more difficult. How did you find it?
So with the LMP3 in the high downforce, the high speed corners rather, there's no challenge, but it still pushes a lot wider than the hypercars. So you got to be careful of that. Into braking, the GT3s outbrake us every day of the week, in the wet, in the dry. In the slow speed, it's a laugh, it's a joke. So navigating them was basically just being very, very, very patient. We don't have the get off the line like the hypercars do. So you had to wait for a clear opportunity. If it was in a straight line, you had to make your intentions clear from a long way back. If you dive them, there's a good chance you're going to hit them. So it had to be like on for a move. If it wasn't on, I'd rather just wait, or else you're going to end your race and someone else's race, and then the stewards are going to come after you.
Well, it was still a great race indeed. And before I let you go to enjoy the celebration with the RTA team, because there was quite a number of you guys out there, anything you want to say to the sponsors, the admins, to the drivers and teams that were out on the circuit and wanting to get out on the circuit, and most importantly, to the amazing petrol heads out there in the virtual grandstands?
Yeah, certainly. It's another season. Looking forward to it. Thanks to RaceFace for putting this all together. I look forward to the next, I think, 7 rounds. To my teammates, to Esteban, congratulations on the win. Well managed, pushed hard there to get the win. David got unlucky, he disconnected, so still a long season, he can pull it back. Johan, unfortunate, also disconnected, but long season, he can still pull it back. Brandon just ran out of fuel, it happens. And to Yaku, getting a drive-through from the start is not ideal. To all the sponsors, thanks for supporting the series. To my team sponsors, thanks guys. We'll keep making you proud, and let's bring another trophy home.
That's it. Well done once again. Kyle Oosthuizen taking the victory, the maiden victory for our LMP3s. Some great stuff as we getting a little bit of a look in behind the steering wheel. Let's have a chat to our hypercars, because man, oh man, did we have some serious racing out there tonight, as Henry Mayer took the victory in the hypercars and looked to run away. But we got to talk about the fight that was happening for third place. Let's bring in Chris Tolls, third place in the hypercars. Chris, welcome to the commentary box. First time I've seen you get a third, but you were fighting tooth and nail with a car that we haven't seen for 2 seasons, the Cadillac. How are you feeling after that?
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, it wasn't a very good race from my side, but I had some fun at the end fighting with Martin, a new guy in the league, and it was good fun racing him.
Now, take us through what happened. At the start, you were leading the race, you started opening up the distance, suddenly landing up in 5th and falling back. Was there a little bit of an altercation with you in the slower classes, or did the changing conditions become the Achilles heel of the Peugeot?
No, actually, unfortunately, I think I was having a perfect race up until that point. I got a good start. The pace was good. I was feeling really comfortable in the car. the traffic management was a bit tricky, but then yeah, the rain started to come down, and yeah, I felt really strong in changing conditions as well. And then I made a late call to come into the pits. It was the perfect lap because it was just when the track went over to being classified as slightly wet, so it was the perfect time to pit. And I just didn't change to wet tires, unfortunately. So I made a mistake in my pit menu. I stayed on my mediums. I fueled the car, but then I had to do a lap, come back in, and change to wets. So that's where my race pretty much unraveled. And from there, it was always a recovery job. I think second was probably possible, but only because of Brandon having something happen to him towards the end of the race. So third was probably the best that I could do. But yeah, it was close to get second at the end, so unfortunate.
Well, it was still a great race nonetheless, and as a defending champion, all pressure starting to go on. What's the plan heading into round 2 next week at Imola? 60 minutes worth of racing, a little bit different to the 80 minutes that we had here tonight.
Yeah, I think Imola is one of my strong tracks personally, so I like the track. I'll be putting a lot of effort into that race and making sure that we're prepped. And yeah, unfortunately, I think the weather forecast is dry, so no tire changes that are gonna throw me off in the next race. And yeah, we'll just see what we can do our best. It's first race of the championship, and I think a win was possible, but I think third place isn't too bad to start the title defense, and we'll see what we can do.
Absolutely great stuff. Chris Souls, congratulations on your third place in the Hypercars with the Peugeot, the Delta Negative team, really doing a great job. Before I let you go, anything you want to say to the drivers, the teams out there, to all the admin, and most importantly, to everyone out in the virtual grandstands?
No, I just want to say thanks again to you, Stephen, for taking the time to come and stream us racing. And yeah, to everyone who was involved in the race itself. It was a big grid tonight, and it's really good to see we're gaining some traction on this league. So that's really good. And yeah, I hope the changes for this season are enjoyed by everyone, and that we have a clean season. And then just lastly, thanks to my parents who are always watching, and my girlfriend is always watching and supporting. So yeah, thanks to them.
Absolutely. Chris Souls going in and having a bit of a chat there. Well done, Chris, on a great race. That being said, let's bring in a driver in his maiden debut here in RaceFace.Pro LMU Championship in a car that everyone kind of scoffed at. Was quite sure that, that might not be the car that is needed and not quite going to be the car that is going to work out in the favor. Let's bring in Martin Jacobs in the Cadillac. Martin, welcome to the commentary box. And well, let's talk about American V8, American Power getting second place on your maiden debut here at RaceFace.Pro LMU Championship. How are you feeling?
No, it was great. It was a bit stressful. Obviously happy with the race result. With my first race on RaceFace. I'm quite happy with the P2 finish.
And let's talk about the race, because you landed up in not only the brawl with Chris Souls at the end, but at the beginning of the race, you were fighting it out with the likes of Mildred Claessens in the BMW. Did you feel the Cadillac at some point was on the back foot, even with the change in conditions, or were you quite confident in the car?
I did struggle a bit with the rear end snapping out, so I couldn't really catch the BMW. But with the GT3s and LMP3s getting in the way, I quickly catched up again. If he didn't need to pit, I won't be able to catch him or overtake him. But yes, the Cadillac was definitely on the back foot. I was struggling a bit.
And before I let you go, what was the reasoning for picking the Cadillac? I mean, you saw your competition with Aston Martins, Peugeots. We had one Ferrari, but last season it was all Ferrari. Why did you pick the Cadillac as the hypercar versus some of the more meta of the hypercars?
it's just the V8 sound. I can't get over the V8 sound. It's probably the best sound you can get. I mainly went for the sound, but also I'm quite comfortable with the car. It suits my driving style, so yeah, it's mainly the V8 sound.
Well, I can't argue on that one, especially as it switches over from electric to petrol engine. Before I let you go to enjoy the celebrations on your third place, on your second place, anything you want to say to all the drivers out there, to the teams, to all the sponsors and admin, and most importantly, the incredible petrol heads out in the virtual grandstands?
Oh, I just want to say thank you for watching the race live. Was really close racing. Just want to say thank you to everyone who joined the race and watched the live streams. It was fun.
Absolutely great stuff. Martin Jacobs, congratulations on your position and well done on a stellar run in the Cadillac. Gotta say, some great driving nonetheless, but let's bring in first place, a driver that is pretty used to being at the top of the field, but for the first time in LMU, going to be standing on the podium, Henry Mayer. Henry, welcome to the commentary box and the Aston Martin Valkyrie. After debuting last season in the final round, it seems like this time, round one, worked out in your favor. How are you feeling?
Stephen, I actually had a 50-50. Like, I'm glad I took the win, but I didn't feel like deserving it. I just felt like with all the bad luck happening around me, like I got lucky on this one. But I'll still take it. It's a W for the Aston.
Now, let's talk about that start, because you were lined up against your own teammate, Fleming Bauer, and behind you, Mordre Claessens was looking to snap at the heels. Round one, nervous jitters, new circuit. Was there any concern from your side to get that incredible start and to keep close enough to the likes of Brandon Kruger and Crystals?
Yeah, like I was actually more nervous for the rain to hit because I wanted either a wet or a dry race. Like I didn't want the mixed conditions, and luckily that's what we got, I guess. Unlucky.
Lucky, unlucky, but you got to be in the race to get it. Now, I know that you were sitting with your teammate when... What was running through your head when suddenly your teammate had the snap oversteer in the wet conditions, and that was pretty much the end of his race for Fleming Bauer? Was there any concern for your side in the Aston Martin Valkyrie, which hasn't been quite the strongest through all the different races, and this is really the first time it's been put through its paces in the wet here at RaceFace.Pro?
Stephen, I think accidents happen. Like, we'll go back. Fleming is waiting for me. Like, after this, I'm going to go back and we're going to look what happened to learn. Like I told him, this season we are here to learn. We're not here to win or win a championship or nothing. We are learning.
Well,
and I guess next season we'll try and do something more.
Well, you say you're not fighting for a championship at the moment. First place in the Hypercar class, I think, is a great way to kick things off. Before I let you go and join up with the Pandacity team for the celebrations out there, anything you want to say to the competitors you had on the circuit, to the drivers and teams that are racing and looking in from the outside to be part of the show, but also to all those amazing petrol heads out there in the virtual grandstands?
Yeah, just a massive thanks to Chris and Jan for arranging everything and getting everything in line. Thanks to all the amazing sponsors and everyone watching. Like, it's fun. It's fun out here.
Absolutely great stuff. Henry May of Team Pandacity getting the victory here at Silverstone for round one of season 3 of our RaceFace.Pro LMU Championship. Great stuff. And plenty more to come around, as next week we're going to be heading over to Imola for 60 minutes of racing. And we're going to see the battle between the 3 classes yet again. Catch us next week, Wednesday, for that action. Next week, Tuesday, we got some prototype action between the LMP2s and Hypercars in iRacing on the Tuesday. And we return with some GT3 racing in ACC coming up next week, Thursday. Start joining in with the grading. Join us out on the Discord and be a part of the show because it's going to be an incredible one. It's going to be tight. It's going to be fierce. And this season looks like it's going to be some of the best racing here at RaceFace.Pro across the board, across the sims, and across all the different classes of cars. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, got to say a massive, massive shout out to our sponsors, EG Evolve, Simulator Cave, Virtual MotorHeads, Rhino Utility, and Team SBR for being part of the show. Massive shout out to our admin team, putting it all together and ensuring that this season is going to be one you cannot miss. It's going to be a bit of a lively season of racing. And especially to all you out in the virtual grandstands, braving through the hot, the cold, the windy, and the wet here at Silverstone. We look forward to seeing you guys joining us again next week for the action. Make sure you follow us out on our socials, Facebook and X, as well as being a part of our Discord for all the chatter, to all the news, and what more is coming out. But from myself, Stephen Koenig, Tim on cameras, and Jim, who is on the flags, we'd like to say thank you very much for all the hard work that is put in behind the scenes of these two amazing men over here. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week and enjoy some more great racing. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification icon. And like always, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody.